Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and look who's back, my friend Steven Ozanich. This is our fourth conversation that we're recording. We've had many other conversations, but every time we do, we decide that we need to record because the information that we talk about and just share as friends ends up being really amazing information. And today, we are going to talk about the legacy of the amazing Dr. Dr. Sarno, who I have a deep love for, and many of you know that Steven has a huge love for because Dr. Sarno basically saved his life. And there are many people that can say the same thing. But what I love about you, Steven, is that you took it a big step further and wrote some amazingly powerful books that have also gone on to carry on Dr. Sarno's legacy in your own way. Now, this is really cool that we're doing this because a lot of people might not know that on June 22nd of 2017, so just 6 months ago from when we're recording this, Dr. Sarno passed away one day away from his 94th birthday. So he was born on January 23rd in 1923, and he just passed away on June 22nd. He was born on June 23rd, but he passed away June 22nd of 2017.
Right.
And Steven, I'm so happy we're doing this because Dr. Sarno has impacted my life, and his legacy is so big and so beautiful, and it still needs to be spread for decades and decades after his death. So I love that we're going to have this conversation.
Yeah, I can't thank him enough.
Yeah.
And like we said, this is Christmas time, and it's a time to be thankful. And I can't think of a better person to talk about right now because it's still fresh in my heart that he's gone. But I used to tell him, Dr. Sarno, you saved my life twice. And he'd say, oh, really? I said, yeah, first with your work when I was almost dead at one point, and the other time by endorsing my work. He gave me meaning in my life. And he was so humble. He'd say, oh, well, Steve, he didn't want to see himself that way. And if you saw the film All the Rage, his documentary, when his wife and daughter were saying, you're getting all these emails and letters saying you saved their lives. And he said, I changed their lives. I didn't save them. And they said, no, the letters say you saved them. He says, okay. He went along with it. But he saved their lives. He really did. Not just physically.
Yeah. Not
a physical problem. What he discovered this is why he's the greatest doctor I think that ever lived. He discovered it's not a body problem. It almost never is a body problem.
Right.
It is a conflict, psychologically conflicted, inside, confused, a lot of powerful emotions going on there and thoughts. And so he truly changed the world forever, and I wrote this second little book about him for him, Dr. Dr. Sarno's Top 10 Healing Discoveries. I put his glasses on the back of it for a reason, because I know he did not like his image being used at all. He hated that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people you say, this is the new Sarno method, the new Sarno program. He did not like that. If he was a younger guy, he probably would have stopped that. But they do it. He realized at some point he can't fight it. They're going to mark it off of his work.
Yeah.
And so I didn't tell him I was writing this little book in honor of him and put his name in the title. And I got a letter from him in the mail not long after it came out. And I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble with my hero. He's mad at me. I can't have my hero mad at me. I didn't really want to open it. But I did, and it was a beautiful thank you letter. It was just beautiful.
Oh.
I framed it. I put it in a frame.
Oh.
Written in his own handwriting. And on NYU Medical Center letterhead, just thanking me for representing him so well. It really was powerful. It really rocked me, But he was a wise man. He knew it would help me too.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, even though he wanted his work to spread, I think he was careful because it had to be the right work. Because I think people can take it out of context and still let people be in a pain situation, but do you think that's true?
Oh, that's everything. Really not very many people are sticking with his work. They're taking it, relabeling it, calling themselves the person. They don't give them proper attribution. But he didn't work with people that wanted to switch it. And it's never going to be changed in that sense. It's all about life and health and family and love, and that's never going to be advanced upon. That's all there is.
Yeah.
You know, now certain aspects of it might be expanded, but they're all taking it backwards. I can see everything back into the physical realm again. You know, well, sometimes this and sometimes that, and he was only right here and there. It did him a great injustice, and it made him mad, angry at somebody, but he didn't have control over it. And so when I went to write that little book, I went to one of his best friends, one of the first disciples of his, Dr. Siegel. She said, I won't put my name on anything that he doesn't approve of. And I said, well, he doesn't know I wrote it, you know. And so she had him on the phone one time. She mentioned, hey, this guy Steve's got this book that he wrote about you. I've been reading it. And I just want to know if it's okay for me to do the foreword, because that's what I asked her to do. He said, he goes, if it's Steve, yeah, you can do it.
Oh, that's so nice, Steve.
I know, that was sweet, wasn't it? It was nice of him to do that. She said, I don't have any problem now after he said that. And she wrote a very nice foreword. She's one of his very best friends.
Yeah, I read the foreword. I read your book. I've read all your books. I have them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, you know what? Do you think that his message doesn't stay whole because in the whole form, it takes away so much that depends on the pain industry with money? Well,
yeah. I mean, he never thought his work would catch on. You know, he's a drop in the ocean. It's money driven.
Yeah.
If you do this work right, there's no money to be made because you'll heal just by understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you have to be ready to change. I talk about that a lot. Readiness. You're the first one I remember that picked up on that in my book. You said, I noticed readiness here. I bolded. I was glad. I bolded enough times you spotted it.
You know what? There were so many things I picked up, and Dr. Sarno's legacy is so forefront and heavy in your book because it impacted you, and it was such your book is so good, and it's such a tribute to Dr. Sarno. I mean, there's almost not a page on there that doesn't talk about Dr. Sarno.
Yeah, I don't take credit for any of it. You know, I'm trying to give back the gift that I was given. You know, to whom much is given, much will be asked.
Yeah, well, you know, it's your job now, plus other people. There are other people who are spreading this message and carrying on the true work of Dr. Sarno. But now it's your job to make sure that his legacy stays true and pure. Because I know in a conversation we had earlier this year, we talked about how everything boils down to love. And it's such a simple, beautiful concept.
Yes, it's everything. Yeah. It's the only thing that matters. And he was loved. I promised him I would carry on his work.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here talking with you, talking with people. I've been doing about 2 interviews per week for a couple months. And it's the same thing, you know. If you take this work, you can distort it and spin it any way that you want to. And I see it every day. People contact me, but this person said this. I said, okay, let's go back again, look at the beginning and go start over. And then they say, oh, okay, I see. They're just making money. They're marketing their own work, you know. Yeah. But, you know, a lot of them want to help too. They really do.
Yeah, I agree.
They want to help. I think everybody that I've ever worked with in 18 years always wanted to give back and to help.
Yeah.
And so, but it's how they do it, I think. It's how that they do it. And so I would say stick with the fundamentals. There's always more you can learn about anything, but once you start getting into the higher understanding of this work, you realize how brilliant his work was. It was really brilliant. And that's why I put the top 10 things there, but it's probably about 50 things that he did. And, you know, we can look back on him now and say, what was his legacy, right?
Yeah.
What is it? And time will tell. You really never know a legacy till years go by, right?
That's true. Mm-hmm.
You can't say immediately, this is the legacy. You know, I can see it forming now, but it's still only been 6 months, like you said. I can envision what it might be. That I believe he empowered us as human beings. You know, we are not helpless, hapless victims of our bodies. We're controlling it.
We are. We're the creators.
We are co-authors of our lives, is what I say. We're co-authors of our lives. Right, exactly. We are the creators. That's even a better way to put it.
Yeah, we're not victims. We're creators. And yes. I think the people that get thrown off track listening to other people without the right message, even though those people are trying to help. I think what resonated with me was when I just said, every fiber of my intuition was just like, this makes so much sense. And it was the message was simple. It wasn't complicated and all these things that complicate the healing process. Those are the things now. I think if we learn to tune into our intuition and listen to the true simple message, we begin to know when someone else we're approached, or we approach someone else and their message is different or more complicated, or they say it's not that simple, then that's when you can go, oh, well, yeah, it is that simple.
That's a good point. When I talk now, I talk about this, we live in an information era. It's the problem. This thinking, intuition is pushed aside.
Yeah.
If you listen to Eckhart Tolle talking or Yogananda or all these great minds, it's always the thinking function that gets us sick, causes all of our problems, instead of just being in the moment at peace with the moment at hand, Yeah. And in Carolyn Leaf, I was just listening to her talk. She's pretty cool. She said, we are not victims of our bodies. We are saviors of our bodies.
Yeah.
And when we empower ourselves and say, listen, I'm not going to believe my doctor here. I'm not going to believe it, because the doctors are the ones that have us down for the most part. Oh, you've got this, and you have to sit like this the rest of your life, and you never better eat that again, and you're only going to live to be this long. If you believe that stuff, then you actually manifest and create that reality.
Right.
That's why she's always quoting Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns of this world. Because if somebody says, oh, that person got this and died, and you conform to that pattern, you're going to. And so I see people healing almost every day, and they didn't listen to their doctor.
I love that. Because you know what, that takes the responsibility out of the doctor's hands and puts it back on ours.
Yes, and if you can say, hey, I've just got something wrong with my body, you get out of the accountability for your life. You can say, well, it's not my fault that I've got this or that. That's my body. But you are creating this body. Yogananda said the mind is the power that's creating this body. Don't allow it to think like that, into the shadowy parts of things. And so I think I look back on him, and I even told him, I said, you gave me hope. That's how I healed. Everybody told me I was done. I could never golf again. I could never walk right again. I'd never be able to lift things again. Then your life begins to shrink, which is fear. Whenever fear is in our lives, it's always a contracting process. Fear contracts, love expands. And so I was shrinking as a person, all of my hopes and dreams, and he comes along, you're okay.
Yeah, it's so matter of fact, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's simple. Well, he said in healing back pain, it's simple and it isn't. If you're going to get into all the complex parts of psychology and all that, it can get very complex, but you can just let go and go live again. It's that simple. But people need their symptoms, remember. They need to think that something's wrong with them because it's protecting them.
Yeah.
And so they'll find every excuse not to heal. I see it constantly. Well, I believe him, but this is where he's wrong. I say, here I go. I got to listen to another place where Dr. Sarno is wrong. And then once I'm done talking, oh, yeah, I guess I see. I said, why are you spending all your energy and time trying to figure out why he's wrong instead of spending that energy and time healing? Because you could have been healed by now.
Yeah.
I work with people on Skype, and sometimes they heal right there from fibromyalgia or back pain right there within 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because they're ready.
Yeah.
They were ready, and he got that. He got it, but he never pushed his work. Let it happen.
Well, you can't really push something like that because people's belief systems are so deep.
Oh, and they dig their heels in deeper. Once you conflict with their beliefs, then they, nah. And then you've lost them.
Yeah.
He was always the guy, get him with honey, not vinegar.
Yeah. Which is the way to go anyway.
It's true.
I think his calm confidence in what he did without trying to push his agenda was what made him so powerful.
Yeah. It was him, the man, Yeah. That's why we're talking about him now, not just his work, but the person. I asked him years ago, can I write your biography?
Oh.
And I didn't get an answer for a while. I thought, well, I made him mad. But he came back and said, Steve, I think that's very flattering and nice that you'd want to do that. But I think I want the world to remember me through my work, he said.
Oh.
I said, but listen, the people want to know you, the man. Who would take this stance against this powerful industry
Right.
at the cost of his own really greater happiness? Could have done other things, but he got ridiculed and mocked for it. You know, he wanted to see people get better.
Yeah.
He said, well, he goes, I understand. I said, but every day people ask me, what does he like this? Does he do that? He said, well, if in the future I change my mind, I'll let you know. And I thought, wow, he was 90 at that point, I think, or 89 or 90. I thought, that is positive thinking. He's talking about the future. He's 90 years old. But I would have liked to have written it. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to you earlier about this. A lady contacted me last year on Facebook, and she said, my mom dated Dr. Sarno in 1940.
Whoa.
And I said, oh, really? That's pretty cool, because he was at Kalamazoo in 1940s in college in Michigan. And she said, yeah, they dated, and they didn't get married, but he stayed friends with her. She told me he sent her a birthday card for 50 straight years in a row.
Wow. That tells you so much about him right there.
Class act. Yeah, class act. And she just said, I wanted to let him know that my mother died. He's not working anymore. I don't know how to tell him.
Yeah. Oh,
it was a sweet story. Of course, he was this amazing guy. And the more I get to know him, I wish I could have known him better too. But so I said, I'll tell him. And then she said, I was going through my mom's stuff after she died, and I found pictures of them dating.
Oh.
I said, she said, would you like to see him? I said, I would like to have him, because if I do write a biography, I really would like to put him in there. Wouldn't that be kind of cool to have in a book?
Amazing.
It's funny. Yeah, they were pretty good shape. You know, I sent one to Howard Stern. I said, I know how much you love him, because I do too. You know? I said, you're the only person who's ever seen this picture besides me.
Yeah. So Howard Stern has a great story.
That was it. Right
there he is right there. Yeah, that's
Probably
so
18.
great. How old is he there?
Based on the year she had, the lady didn't know, but her mother had written years at the bottom of the yearbook pages. If 1940, that would have made him what? Almost, if he was born in 23, a teenager, late teens, 17,
Yeah,
18.
17. Wow.
Yeah, she said, my mom and dad always spoke so highly of Johnny.
Oh,
Johnny. But I guess he was a pretty good man back then as a young kid, you know. I look at these old pictures and I think to myself, go to school, kid, because you got to get your doctorate someday to save my life.
and he did. You don't have to worry about that. He did it. Now his wife is still living, right?
Yes.
And are they around the same age?
No, I think she was quite a bit younger, from what I understand. Second wife.
Okay.
I read that in his obituary in June.
And then they had kids.
Her name's
right?
Martha. She's a pretty well-published person herself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her PhD. I think they might have met that way. I don't know. They were very intensely private people.
Yeah.
Very, very intensely private. Because I was going to go to New York one day. I said, I'd like to meet you when I'm there. He said, Steve, I beg of you to let me out of this obligation.
So proper.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, that's how he spoke. You know, old school. But it wasn't me. It was just he didn't like to talk to people, you know, outside of professional things like that. He was very private.
Well, maybe once he retired, because by the time you would have been meeting with him, he would have been.
Yeah, I can't remember when I actually said that. I don't remember when he said it, but he, I can see what it's doing around the world. I work with people in different countries, you know, and they'll often hold his books up in their language.
Yeah.
Italian or French or something like that, you know, and they have tears in their eyes, you know, and all it took was somebody just to look at the truth instead of avoiding what the money was bringing in. Just look at it.
Yeah.
He said, I knew something was wrong early on when the things weren't working. People were having back problems, and we were operating, we're doing therapy, and it just wasn't working. So he said, I would begin looking for another reason.
Yeah.
How many doctors look for other reasons? If it doesn't work, they just try it again or try something else.
Yeah. How many back surgeries do people have before they go, that's not working?
Oh, boy,
that's horrible.
I met 2 people who had 10 back surgeries each.
Oh my gosh.
No, sometimes there's some deeply painful emotions there.
Yeah.
Yeah, abandonment is the big problem, of course. And
Hmm.
he hit on so many things. Perhaps, like I said in my third book, perhaps it takes somebody practicing 50 years to see the big picture. Maybe 10, 20 years isn't enough. Maybe it takes longer. And so he was the right man at the right place at the right time in history.
Yeah.
The internet came out. He didn't really like the internet. He didn't really use it much. He liked to write handwritten letters to people. Old school. A lot of people I've run into have theirs framed like me.
Yeah.
It was a personal touch.
Yeah.
Back when the doctors used to visit the houses. I don't know. You're probably too young to remember.
We're the same age, Steve. Whatever.
Hey, I was trying to help you out there.
Thank you, though. Yeah, well, my favorite book of Dr. Sarno's, he's written the 4. My favorite is The Divided Mind.
Yes, it is interesting. And of course, I don't know if anybody listening to that knows what that is. That was his 4th one.
Mm-hmm.
It was his crowning achievement. I didn't even know he was writing a 4th one. He was about 87. God bless him. He was so older. He still hadn't put out his best work yet. And my book, The Great Pain Deception, was called A Mind Divided. That was the name of it through the 2000s, the working title.
Yeah.
Then when his came out, I was shocked at how close the title was. So I had to switch it. And I told him that my book was called A Mind Divided.
Oh.
I even my friends know, I even had the Vitruvian Man on the cover, like he has on the cover there. I had an artist beginning to work on it to try to get it inside of a human skull, and there it was. His was inside of a human head. It was just freaky. I was looking at it like, wow. Well, at least I know I'm on the same page that he is here. But
you guys are energetically connected, Steve.
Yeah, maybe we were before, during, and after. I don't know. But I had to switch the title around, and I told him, I said, I really don't believe it's a mind divided as much as it's a conflict between the head and the heart.
Yeah.
He said he didn't have a problem with that. It's thinking and feeling. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem.
Well, what did he know? What did he think about epigenetics? That's all the same thing. But did you ever know what his thoughts on that were?
I mentioned Bruce Lipton to him a few times, who created that field, and read it in my book, of course. I don't know. A lot of people wanted his opinion on many things, and he didn't give it out very freely.
I wonder why.
He had to be positive before he put something out that may not be true. They were always asking him about what's his name, Brown's book, The Presence Process.
I don't think I know that.
Michael Brown, I think it is, The Presence Process. He'd go, I haven't read it. I asked him about a few other things. I know that he did read Norman Cousins' book, the great one, Anatomy of an Illness, that changed a lot of lives.
Right.
I think he said he even spoke to him. Yeah. Matter of fact, he did. He spoke to Norman Cousins, and he said he was a little more harsh than me about the doctors and all that. Dr. Sarno always tried to soften the language that was too rough between people. He was a peacemaker in many ways.
Yeah.
Great man. I was told by the Forbes writer who wrote that great article on him that he studied cooking like a chef, and he studied classical music. And sometimes when you would go into his office, that he would be humming some type of opera, ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. Just a real, genuine man. And everybody says the same thing. He was the real deal, genuine person.
He was the perfect one for this work.
Yes, that's why he was chosen. Yogananda said, the channel is blessed by that which flows through it.
Yeah.
And so even in myself, I know that I'm blessed by this work. And when I get to work with people, I'm blessed by being used as that channel.
Yeah.
Because if you look for truth, it's coming your way.
It is. And it makes me grateful every day that I met you and learned about Dr. Sarno's work. And I've benefited so greatly from knowing you, Steve, and having you introduce me to Dr. Sarno. And I feel like I want to be a vessel too, to help spread the word, and because to me it's so pure and it's so simple. And when you can see the light bulb go on in someone's eyes when they start to understand the message, and it just resonates deep in their thought, emotion, and in their intuitive person, it's such a cool thing to watch, because you can almost watch the shift
Oh, I'm telling you. In fact, I was just talking about that great Wayne Dyer film called The Shift.
Yeah.
I think it came out in 2015, but I can see it in people's faces.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quick. They sign on and they're really tense looking and they're really conflicted looking and they're afraid, and after a couple hours, whatever symptom they have is gone and they're relaxed. They can see this glow in their eyes and their face. And if I have to work with them again, I can see it each time getting a little bit better. And by that time, they're just smiling at the end. They're not even thinking about it, And I remember meeting you the first time. You were going through some things too. And the second time was a lot better, I remember.
I know.
Better, smiling again.
Well, it's funny because when I first met you and we talked on the phone, you said, or maybe we exchanged emails before we had our first phone consultation. I said, you said, when we have a consultation, this was all an email, I want to get you on video. I want to Skype. And I was like, no, I don't like to get on video. I hate FaceTime. I mean, I've never been a person who likes, if I'm having a bad hair day or my hair's in a ponytail and I'm just got done working out or whatever, I don't want to get on a Skype call.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, yeah. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting in the corner of my office. And I'm telling you, on that first hour we talked, I never had heard of Dr. Sarno. I mean, I am still stunned that I have not. It might be because he was so quiet. He wasn't splashy. He wasn't out there in the media. And I remember just vividly looking at your face on my little screen because I was on my phone, and you had so much passion in your voice, and you had such surety, and everything you said just resonated with me. And then I had to, of course, go read your book to get the full message. That's what brought the message home to me, is when I finally committed and read your book. So.
And that's the good point to bring up as far as his legacy too. So it's like jets going on overhead. One of the reasons he was so successful is he was available to his patients. He would get right on the phone with them. I'm worried. I got this and this and this thing's happening. Well, what are you doing? This and this and this. He was there. He made them feel safe and secure. And I know that when I Skype, it's more powerful.
It is.
It adds that other dimension. I get to see the reaction in their faces because it's all about connection. That's what it's about. He connected with the people. That's one of the reasons his work was so great. That's what life is really about. And that's why we have so many health problems, that people aren't connecting anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you connect with somebody, I can see them have doubt in their eyes or something. If I say something about mother or father and their face lights up. And so it's a more powerful tool. And so I've done a few on phone and they're not as powerful, but I still believe you only have to read healing back pain and that's all you need. But if you're not ready, you need a little more information. And if you're not ready there, you need a little bit more until your time has come and then you're ready to release it.
Yeah.
It's not about healing. It's about releasing it.
Right.
You're creating this TMS, right? He's forever going to be known for those terms, TMS. He had a pretty good sense of humor. He was pretty funny. I was listening to that commencement speech he gave in 2000 to his old college. And he went up to the stage and it immediately pulled a microphone down for him, because he was about 5'2" or something like that. Said, "This is my whole life. I've always had to pull these things down." Then a big train whistle went off. And he went, "Oh, there's that train still coming by here." Back in 1940, he said that train came by every night. It was like clockwork. And if it didn't come by one night, he said, we would wake up and go, "What was that?"
Is that available on YouTube to watch?
I could probably upload it. I'll send it to you.
I'd love to watch that.
It's an audio only, but it's
it's audio. I'd love to listen to that.
He sounded so happy and upbeat there. He would live 17 more years.
Yeah.
But he was funny. I told him I'm getting email now, people from the Texas Motor Speedway asking me when the next race is. And he laughed so hard from his stomach, But yeah, he was keen in many ways, like a Renaissance man, studying arts and science and things like that, and great relationship. And so, yeah, I kept every correspondence he ever sent me. You know,
Well, I would too. Yeah.
some of them are framed. It's like having a letter from Freud or Jung or somebody very famous throughout history who changed the way people see things.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, his legacy is yet to be determined. But I think that he empowered us is the most important thing, that we were straying so far from the truth. Remember, pain and disease are defenses against truth.
Yeah.
And if you have a chronic problem, something's going on there. The body heals itself quickly by nature's great design within a few days or weeks. If you're terribly injured, it might take months, but it does not last years.
Right. And it's not about an injury. It's about just chronic pain.
Yeah. Chronic suffering, like he said, if it's chronic, that which created it has become chronic, he said.
Yeah.
He spoke in very, very cool language, very old school type language. When he sent me the first endorsement for my book, it was worded in a way I didn't quite understand it. And I went to his friends and they said, oh, that's the way he speaks.
Wow.
Just his language is very formal language. But anybody can go watch All the Rage. We should probably say that, right?
I was just about to ask about that. That's funny you said. I was just about to say. So can you download it somewhere on Netflix or?
I understand it is for you can on demand. It's like $6 or something. You can stream it for 72 hours or something like that.
So it's called All the Rage, and it's like a biography.
Yeah, it was well done. All the Rage, Sarno Saved Me, just in case there's another one called All the Rage. But in there, Michael Galinsky, the filmmaker, got some great footage of him in the Senate building there, and some great footage that he's releasing a little bit at a time in his office that we'll never hear again. It was really beautiful. Yeah. Some of it really blows my mind away how foreseeing he was even. He said in the one clip Michael uploaded a few weeks ago, there'll be younger guys come along than me that'll see brain changes in the brain structure. He knew that already, and they're trying to do that now.
Right.
But he already knew that it was changing. So it's not really going to do anything other than prove that he was right once again.
Yeah.
But we know through the neural pathways and the neural network there that it changes structure based on our beliefs and how we see things.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really fascinating. I was so honored to have known him.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to have known him through you or just be introduced to him and his work. And I think if anyone that's listening to this has any interest in reading Dr. Sarno's work, watching this movie called All the Rage, it can only enhance your life because this information is very, very powerful. And this was one humble, amazing, intellectual, intuitive man. And I know you knew him much better than I did, but I'm grateful that he came into your life so that you could bring him and his work into my life. And yes. I know there's hundreds of thousands of people that could say the same thing.
Yes, millions of people have read his work easily by now, and tens of thousands for my first book. And so once again, I was blessed to be a channel for this work. And I look back and some of the conversations we had, it was pretty funny. I asked him one time, somebody wrote me, is this book going to be in Ukrainian or something like that? Because all these people from different countries are saying, I need it in my language. I can't understand it. Yeah. So I emailed him, is it going to be there? And he goes, hell, Steve, I don't know. Not my book. He says, not my book. The publishers own it now.
Yeah, yeah.
They do whatever they want with it. I said, oh, yeah, he's right. Why was I asking him? He would not know.
Yeah. Is his book, any of his books on Audible?
Well, I know healing back pain was the thing to save my life, the audio of that. So I know that. And I just did a consultation with a guy, and he said that Mind Body Prescription was. And I think a friend of mine told me that the Divided Mind was. So I'm going to say yes, unless they're all lying to me.
I would be surprised if they weren't, because I know that's such a great way to learn. And before we started recording, you and I were talking about you are recording your book, The Great Pain Deception, and how much work it is and all the intricacies that are involved. But because the information is so dense that it's like on information like this, I can get it if it's in my ear or the information sinks in. So I think if people don't know where to start, if you listen to any type of audiobooks, this is a great way to start getting this information.
Yeah, and I'm an audio learner. I learn better and deeper with audio. I can read it and I have to keep reading it over and over again.
Yeah.
Hear it. It's a deeper part of the brain. It's a more survival brain.
Right.
Sense of hearing.
Right.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. You know, now I know why he only recorded the first one on audio. It's too hard. I don't want to do it again.
So he recorded only one of his books in his voice?
Healing Back Pain's the only one he did.
Okay. Because I've only read his books. I haven't listened to them on audio, but I should put those in my account and listen to those. They would sink in on a different level too.
He had that soothing voice for me. It was very reassuring that you'll be okay. You know, almost like a fatherly figure to us. He's definitely the father of a movement.
Yeah.
And he'd be one of the first people to say, I'm not the first one that came up with this. We've known this through Walter Cannon's work and some of the older people that studied this. But he kind of modernized it and gave it a name and, pushed it.
Yeah. How many years was he in practice, Steve?
I think it was about 50 years, 5 decades.
Wow.
I think he said Howard Rusk called him the day he graduated, which was in 1950 maybe or something like that. He called him on the phone. So he must have been a great student.
Wow.
Howard Rusk is a legend, an American legend. That's where he worked, at the Rusk Institute.
Wow.
It was the very first outpatient center in the United States. Outpatient, very first one. And he called him when he graduated. He must have been a great student. You know, and so he knew some great people too. He knew Norman Cousins, or Howard Rusk. You know, and he didn't brag about anything. I never saw it once. I tried to get him to several times, but no, he would always give somebody else credit. But don't all great people do that?
Yeah. Well, they don't need to take the accolades because they all speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
Actions are stronger than words always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, isn't that true? What if we don't take any action?
You gotta take action.
That's right. Take action on it.
Oh.
Which was one of his main things. Read the books, understand what's happening between mind and body, and then act on it.
Right.
He said there were 2 pillars to healing. Learn all you can about TMS and act on it. Everybody that I'm seeing and working with, nobody's acting on it. They'll say, I read the book, it didn't do anything. I read the book, it didn't do anything. You know, those are the biggest criticisms of his work. He doesn't tell me what to do. See, people like to be spoon-fed.
They do. They want to know. They want to have an exact plan of action that someone else sets out for them.
Yeah. Show me X, Y, and I'll get Z. Well, it doesn't work that way in life at all. You can only take all this information and formulate something for yourself. Right. You didn't have a specific plan because there is nothing like that. It's the awareness of what's going on is the healing mechanism. It has nothing to do with me saying, don't do 5 of these and 6 of those, and that's what people want. Tell me what to do. I get it every day working with people. What do I do? It's about awareness.
Yeah.
Light heals, the light of consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, because fear is the problem here. We've talked about this many times. You know, love is the answer.
Yeah. Well, and I think people just get a little bit lazy because we've been trained to be lazy. You know?
That's right. It's a learned behavior, you know.
It is learned, yeah.
That's why all these self-help things are out there, you know, and people tell me just what to do. You know, I'm amazed sometimes. He used to tell me, Steve, your job is to boost their confidence. They don't need more information, really. They just need more confidence in what they already see there, which he was right once again.
Yeah.
And I'll be explaining this cause and effect to them, this cause and effect, and this cause and effect, and I'm getting nothing out of them on the Skype, you know. And then I'll say, you're going to be okay, and they'll start crying. All they wanted from me was to tell them they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, you gave them hope. By saying those words, that's giving them hope.
Right. And all they wanted to know, because they're afraid. Remember, fear is the causative factor here. Love is the answer, because they're polar opposites.
Right.
All they wanted from me, I didn't know it. But he was right. Once again, your job is to boost their confidence. So when I say, you're going to be able to do this, really? They'll say, really? And they'll start to get better. All they want is they're waiting for someone else to tell them they're going to be okay. And they're going to be okay. Like the little kid who falls on his bicycle learning how to ride. They usually look at the parents first to see if they're hurt. Right?
That's true. And if the parents like, oh,
then they cry.
Then they cry. If the parents like, you're good, get up.
Then they'll laugh. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times we wait for other people to react. And so he was so confident and assured, he'd say this and this and this, get to work, you're going to be okay. That was part of the healing mechanism. The man himself, this is why we're talking about him, the person, the way a message is delivered is just as important as the message itself. Because I can have a great message, and if I'm really lousy delivering it, it's not going to get through. Because it's not the message that is delivered that matters, it's the one that's heard.
Right.
I can tell you everything you need to heal right now, and it doesn't work if you're not hearing it right, if you're not receiving it right. And so part of the job of a teacher is to explain it in terms that they can understand. And his books were so general and so easy to read. I used to tell him he was a much greater writer than people gave him credit for, because for me I just read through it. It wasn't hard to read at all, and yet it was big. It was big. The language is big. Every sentence had like a life-changing moment in it. Like become more active. Because I never knew whether to rest or to get more active. I was always going back and forth trying each one. Now I've got a direction. Go get more active. Don't do this. Don't do that. We want direction, We love direction. And a person with charisma, well, people will follow that person.
Yeah.
He definitely had it. Whatever the it factor is, I used to call him the James Bond of doctors. I even called him that. I said, Dr. Sarno, you're the James Bond of doctors, because he was so cool.
Did he have a martini?
I don't know. I remember the first time I talked to him, I said, I was worried about you when the World Trade Towers fell, because his office was not far from there. And because everybody was worried about him because they were afraid, what happens? Something happens to me. I need him again, Remember Howard Stern said that to him, and he said, you better keep me alive, Howard. But he said, I was in Barcelona, Spain at that time on vacation. But that's good. I think Sarno's an Italian name too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I imagine he had a glass of red wine in that film, I think, but so intensely private. Even as close, some of his friends that were close to him didn't know a lot about certain things of him. But you and I were fortunate. We got to know a little bit about the man, and we'll pass this information on to our children.
Yeah.
We'll pass it on. The world will never be the same. Never. It can never go back. Once consciousness is expanded, It will never return.
Well, and I have hope for just love and pain-free living for humanity. I think that's where we're going. Like you said, once this box of Pandora opens, you can never put it back in.
Yes.
It's just a matter of reaching the masses at this point, don't you think?
Yes, and I said that in the Great Pain Deception, you cannot step into the same river twice. The stream of consciousness is constantly moving.
Yeah.
And I believe, this is my personal belief, that all humanity is tied to us, that God is inside of our bodies, being created from inside out. And we are creators of this universe here, and that all the problems are created to how we feel about ourselves and treat each other inside.
Yeah.
And so you can see the thing he started here is bigger than TMS.
Way bigger.
It's way bigger. It's much more. It's really about these relationships, and understanding. The more we understand, the more compassion we have for other people too. The more I understand myself, the more compassionate. People now, they come and yell at me and scream at me, and I just look at them and think, wow, you're consciously blind on some things, right? Because I once felt that same way.
It's desperation. Don't you think it's just desperation for people?
Yes, yeah, it's so many factors involved, and what do you do about it? I can't help anybody unless I understand them first. By my own struggles, I understand you already. Before I sign on with anybody, I already understand them immediately. We start talking, you go, how did you know that? Well, I went through that same thing. Yeah. He was very open about his own physical health problems, back pain and knee pain. How he said in the 1970s when he started to play tennis, at our club, I had to be the best. I had to be the best there was, perfectionism, right? And he had all kinds of problems, had to quit playing. And so his own example of, then when he read my manuscript for The Great Pain Deception, he said, the heart of your book is your own story, Steve. And I said, is it? Because I had no idea. He said, yes, that's it, Steve. That's what you're selling them, the whole story. I said, okay.
I would agree. Your story was Your story is so powerful. I agree completely. That's what drew me in, And because it put this huge face of humanity into what you went through and what other people could completely relate, maybe not exactly on the level that they did, that you went through, but their own, what they went through, they see themselves in your story. And then the second half of the book is just like,
yeah, the second half's more of a philosophy on how to live a good life.
yeah.
You know, forgiveness is the key. I mean, forgiveness.
Yeah.
You can't love without forgiveness, and there's no healing without love.
It's a muscle. Forgiveness gets the stronger. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It's so easy just to forgive once you get in that mode, don't you think?
I like that. I might use that. Forgiveness is a muscle. I like that.
If you don't use it, you lose it. But when you start using it, it gets stronger, and then it gets easier to use forgiveness. Forgiveness is just like so simple. It's like, I made a mistake, or in the past you made a mistake. Once you start recognizing that, how healing just forgiveness can be. Wow.
It's the key. And that was where Dr. McKenzie really helped me understand it. He helped me understand Dr. Sarno's work much deeper. He's probably the world's leading expert on separation anxiety, separation fear, separation rage, whatever you want to call it. Studied it his whole career. He's a sweet guy like Dr. Sarno, helped me understand Dr. Sarno's work better. That's where we become conflicted right away early in life, of course.
Yeah.
And, we don't like ourselves. That's basically why we want to become good and better and perfect. And it's sad, but without any love. And I saw Louise Hay say that. You know, she died a couple months back too.
Right.
90 years old. She said, of everyone I've ever worked with, there's always a level of self-hatred in them. And that's what I see in people that I work with too. And love is the answer. At the very least, Dr. Sarno spread love into the world.
He definitely did that.
Well, I mean, I deal with the people every day that the relationships are better, the kids' relationships with the parents and the spousal relationships and the bosses and coworkers. As they forgive themselves and become healthier and happier, they begin to forgive other people. So he started a movement here that is way bigger than what he could ever admit to, you know, because he was humble.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to forget anything that all the communications between us, he was hard to get a hold of because everybody wanted a piece of him. And he got thousands of emails. Even after he retired, he couldn't keep up with them. And he tried to. He'd go on once in a while and look at a few and try to answer them, but there's no way he could do it. It wasn't possible. And of course, he believed in doing it himself.
Yeah.
Not having it through a third person or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've had people hold up letters when I've Skyped with them of letters he wrote to them.
Oh.
And they cherished them, you know, they cherished them because they loved him. I said, it's you, the person. Well, okay. He would go along with that, but I hope as time goes by, I don't forget too much. I wrote 3 books on his work, so that should be out there for a while.
I think you did good, Steve.
I hope so. I wanted to ask him, did I thank you enough? I wrote 3 books for you. Did I thank you enough? But I think he would have probably said, you don't need to thank me, Steve. He probably would have said that.
Yeah. And I think that the books speak for themselves, and the people that you're able to help is...
And you and I talked about this too, that I was shocked at how many condolence emails I got when he died.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. I was so upset myself that they were going, I'm sorry, Steve. And I'm thinking, why are they sorry to me? But they kept rolling in. I thought, wow, maybe people got the hint that I love this guy.
Yeah. I know. I loved him. I didn't know him like you know him. Like the interactions you had, the phone calls, the exchange of letters, and I didn't get that, but I still feel a deep love for him. So I can imagine with that relationship you had, yeah, condolences needed to roll in for you too, because there was a tight bond between the two of you two that is very cool.
I understand that. It just took me by surprise because I didn't think anything about it. Why are they saying this to me? Yeah. But I know I talked to those close medical doctors that he trained, and they were crying for days too and weeks, you know. Even though you knew it was coming, I knew after he quit answering after 6 months that things can't be good. He stopped altogether. But, you know, one day from being 94, that's a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blessing.
Well, I'm glad we got on this little video together to just talk about Dr. Sarno and his amazing legacy. And the goal is to keep keep it alive because the work needs to continue. You know, this work that he has to help humanity, and now through you and other people. You know, my little piece, if I can share this with the people that I'm in contact with, this is the legacy that needs to stay alive of Dr. Sarno. So
yeah, and yeah, I'm glad we got to do this too. You know, he certainly earned it. It'll make us feel better, at least talking about it. Anybody listening to this, they don't even know probably that this can help them. They don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
They're going to say, no, I've got this real thing here. Well, it's all real. It's not coming from where you think.
Yeah.
Any of his work is going to improve your life, even if it's just a relationship thing. I think at some point, all my relationships improved.
Yeah.
You know, but
yeah.
he saw himself only as a medical doctor. You know, he didn't like to get out into other fields. I'm just a medical doctor. But he wasn't just a medical doctor. He was the American doctor.
Yeah. Well, he got it. He got what it means to be a healer and a caregiver who, I mean, doctors are supposed to heal us or help us learn how to heal ourselves. And that's what he truly did.
Yes. Yes. And every way possible, he tried his best. He was criticized and ridiculed and mocked to his face by his colleagues. And yet he probably helps more people heal in one day than they did in their whole career. Amazing.
Well, that's why he stayed solid. That's why he stayed the course. Yeah.
Yes, and why the message came through him, you know. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful, and I told him I would carry on his work, and with my last breath, I'll be yelling TMS probably. I tell people, because they'll say, come on, I want you back on my show again. You know, I've done multiple shows over and over. I'll say, are you sure? Because I'm just going to keep harping about the same thing until it sinks in. And they said, yeah. And I told them TMS could stand for too much Steve, you know. So,
oh, that's good.
Yeah, I thought I had to find some way to try to get out of it. But, you know, sometimes we have to keep repeating it over until somebody's ready to accept it.
I think that's always the case. I think we need, unless we can get back into our subconscious mind, we need repetition to make it sink in. Yeah,
and it does take repetition to change the way we think, to change the habitual mind, we call it, the habitual mind.
Yeah.
It's very reluctant to change.
Yep.
Like he said, it would be a highly unstable animals as human beings if our beliefs switch back and forth second by second. We have certain beliefs deep inside of us that we hold on to, and we don't like to sway from them because we've gotten here this far with those beliefs. We've survived. We don't like to let go of our past knowledge, you know, to get new knowledge. But like I said in the last page of the intro to the first book, this new knowledge is a change. It's a change in everything. The world is never going to be the same. I can see it like a slow burning fire around the globe. His work is very slow, methodical, just like the water that Lao Tzu talked about. The water is the most powerful force on the planet. You know, it can bring down mountains with steady relentlessness. Nothing can stop it. And yet, if you try to grab it, you can't grab it. You can't grab a hold of it. And if you look for life on any planet, they're always looking for water. Water is the essence of life. It has different properties than anything in the universe. If you freeze it, it expands. It's the only element that does that, it expands. It's pretty cool, but it's just like water, the truth. It just keeps coming at you. You can't stop it. You can try all you want, like I did. Remember, I threw his book.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what did he think when he read that in my manuscript that I threw his book against the wall? He probably thought, there's another one.
I
didn't believe it.
Surprised because it's human nature to fight against the belief systems that we hold so dear.
Yes, especially when they conflict with yours. You know, the new one conflicts with it.
Yeah.
And so we just don't want to see ourselves as we truly are. You know, sometimes we're unhappier than we think. We don't like where we're at in our lives at that point. You know, we won't admit it to ourselves because of ego. Ego is the most destructive force in our lives by far. And he didn't seem to have one at all in many ways. I know we all have one. We all have some where we wouldn't even put clothes on. We'd walk around naked if we didn't have ego, I suppose. But
for some things.
Yeah, yes. So he had a very diminished one in many ways, always gave other people credit. And so we're here to give him credit and to thank him. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to say this finally, because he deserved much more than this.
Yeah.
He deserved credit from his colleagues.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what, it's my pleasure, Steve. I love having conversations with you. Like you said, you're multiple times on people's programs, and I'm just kind of like so grateful that you take the time to talk to me and let me share this with the people that I'm in contact with. And I think Dr. Sarno's legacy is super, super important to keep alive. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. And anybody wants to feel better, go look at the man.
Yeah.
And be thankful this year for everybody in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And,
give gratitude. We're at we have like 3 more days left in December of 2017. So if you're watching this when I first release it out there, anytime you're watching this, remember your blessings. Remember how great, you're alive. Yes. You are alive in this amazing physical body, and we're not designed for just constant pain and trauma. We're designed for joy and our senses, watching and eating and feeling and loving. This is how we're designed to be.
Yeah, yes, he opened up this whole new box, thinking outside the box. In the back of the Back Pain Permanent Healing, I put the 5 regrets of the dying. You remember that?
I do.
It was so close to the work that I do with TMS that I wanted people to see what Bronnie had written in her book. She was a hospice nurse, and she saw they were all saying the same regrets. Why not let the living people see it and let them do ahead of time, make these changes? And the first one, of course, was I wish I would have lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. That was the number one thing. And the second one always sticks out in my mind. I wish I hadn't worked so hard.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
Why do we do that?
I don't know. It's because we don't feel good enough. Like he said, we feel like we have to be better and better and more and more. Wayne Dyer called the disease of more. If you're not happy with what you have now, you're never going to be, he would say,
Right.
I need another one. Well, I need another new car. I need more money, just appreciate it right now. And Dr. Sarno, he made me appreciate everything that I had.
Right.
Even though I was in pain, I could walk.
Yeah.
And my wife at that time, she couldn't walk even, she was paraplegic. And so, he changed my life forever. And so I hope he's watching.
I'm sure he is. So what's the third one? So I wish I wouldn't have worked so much.
I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. Just think about that. People are dying. I wish I would have had more fun with all the hard work I already achieved, right? Let me see. I got it right here. Third one, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. That was another TMS thing I needed to get out there. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. That one surprised me.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, I get it. I get why she put it in there, but I didn't think of it, I should say. Why wasn't I thinking that? There's a reason they were close to us in our lives, because we loved them at one point.
Right?
And they just felt bad they didn't stay in touch. The 5th one was, I wish I had let myself be happier. Remember the last line in The Great Pain Deception? Happiness first and good health will certainly follow.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be happy, but I can tell you from working with these people, they don't think they deserve it, happiness.
Or they think happiness is something that will come later once other things are in place, and they're always waiting for things to get better. Or as soon as I'm done working this or doing this, I've got to get everything to be perfect before the happiness.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly it. That's it. That's what the Buddha said, It's not, he was under the Bodhi tree one day. It's not a destination. It's a realization.
Yeah, it's here.
It's here. It's already here. Just like TMS healing. It's not a destination. It's a realization. There's nothing wrong with me.
I love that. I love that so much because it's so true.
Yes, it's true.
Right.
Truth lives forever, and he will live forever. And hopefully this message.
Yeah. Well, it's good. You and I are going to make sure, because we're still young enough to have lots of years left, Stephen.
Yes.
We're gonna do an interview at least once a year, maybe twice. All
right, for the next 72 years.
Yes, because, or maybe more. We're going to live to 156.
People do live longer based on, awareness. And I tell people a lot, it's not, don't underestimate the power of seeing the father of this movement live to be almost 94 either.
Right.
He suffered from a lot of health problems too, and he lived a good life because it was a good life. You know, we can all live longer.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of it's just letting go.
It's everything. Surrender, forgiveness. We talked about surrender, forgiveness. Yep. But you know, so when you look at his life, it's really the example that he set that was more than anything.
Yeah.
I think it's going to outweigh the actual work on TMS at some point. You know, that the example of the person that he was, how he reacted and interacted with people. You know, but time will tell. Hopefully, you and I can look back 30, 40 years from now and say, we were way off.
That's true. Well, what you and I need to do first, maybe in 2018, is meet each other physically in person.
Yes.
And then what we'll do is we'll do a really amazing, cool interview together, sitting in the same room.
Wow.
Okay?
That would be weird. I've never been in a room with other people.
Oh, whatever.
It feels like I've been living here 15 years, writing I've written 5 books now, the 2 little children's books. I've been like a hermit.
You have been out with your nose to the grindstone, helping humanity with your work, Steven.
You know, it hurts my nose.
This is the year that I know are talking about getting out and doing more lectures and getting out there so that you can not just put the message in writing, but here now you are going to be a messenger carrying on Dr. Sarno's voice.
Yeah, it's so much more powerful when you're with them, in front of them.
True.
Lecturing. So I'm done. I'm burned out writing about it. I'm going to start talking now. But every day, thankful for the man and everybody in my life, really.
Yeah, well, I'm thankful for you, Steven. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for this time. And
yeah. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. Voila. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Steven, you're the man. Mwah. I love you.
I love you.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.